Okay, so today we're going to build this lucky number generator that you can use in any email. It's a super fun way to run a competition or produce any idea you have rattling around in your skull that might involve a random number generator. I've themed mine around Wonka because, let's be honest, who didn't love that movie? But you can jazz yours up any way you like. Maybe you're making I Hate Wonka competition. Now this tutorial is rated E for everyone, no matter how long you've been using Braze. I'm going to keep this as simple as I can. We use the drag and drop email editor, a single content block, a tiny sprinkling of liquid, and we'll make something, well, magical. On that note, let's create some magic. First, we're going to need a content block from the template menu to store the random number generator. By using a content block to create the random number generator, we can use that content block multiple times in the same emails or in other content in the future. Click Create Content Block and choose HTML content block as it's going to store some liquid code. Give it a useful name. I've already named mine random number generator, and then click Edit Content Block Body. First, we need to get a random number. Now, Braze doesn't automatically generate random numbers, which I kind of like because it forces us to use some creative liquid magic. First, we type curly brace percentage sign, curly brace to let Braze know there is some liquid logic coming. Inside these curly braces, type assign random number equals now inside quotation marks. You can assign the variable any name that makes sense to you. The now lets Braze know we want to assign the time and the date right now to the random number variable. Some of you might be thinking that's a bit odd to assign the time and date as our random number, but here's where the magic happens. Now type a pipe character to let Braze know we're adding some filters to the stored variable, starting with %N inside quotation marks, followed by another pipe and the filter modulo :10. The date filter lets Braze know how to format the stored time and date, and %N says we want it formatted as nanoseconds, which you can imagine is changing all the time. This is how we get a random number. Since the nanosecond random number is really long, we use the modulo filter. Modulo divides the random number by whatever number we add after the modulo filter, and then only gives us the remainder of that equation. Don't stress too much about the maths, but basically what you write as the modulo number will return whole random numbers from 0 to 1 less than that number. For example, I have written 10, which means I will get numbers from 0 to 9. That's 10 numbers in total, but starting at 0. Have a play with this number and see what happens. If you want a full deep dive into how random number generation happens in Braze, you can check out my previous video here. Alright, I'm going to paste in the next part of the liquid and then I'll explain what's going on, as there is a lot of repetition. Okay, so the first line is taking the random number we created up here and assigning it to a new variable so we can work with it. I've called my variable n for simplicity, which is short for number, but you can name it anything. Now that our random number is stored as n, next we write case n, which tells Braze to check what number is stored as n. Think of case like a suitcase. Yo Braze, what's inside the suitcase? And then we use the when statement to tell Braze what to do with the number it finds in the case. And there's a bonus competition campaign idea for you. What's inside the suitcase? So this liquid reads, when case equals 1, print the number 1. When case equals 2, print the number 2. When 3, print 3, and so on for all our random numbers. Except for 0. For 0, I use the else statement as a fallback. So if there are any issues, or if the number is not 1 to 9, or the number actually is 0, it will always print 0. This reduces the chances of no number appearing at all. Else statements can be a good safety net to get a number printed no matter what else happens. Then finally, if you start with case, you always need to end case your liquid or this just won't work. Most computer code is very similar to your dad yelling at you when you were young about opening the cupboard. If you open something, make sure you close it when you're done. Okay, let's preview that so you can see the result. Random numbers. Perfect. It's working a treat. If yours is not working or Braze says there's an issue with the liquid, first thing I'd check is that all your brackets match and that all your statements are correct. There's an old saying that I invented just now, typos break code more than code breaks code. Alright, that's the hardest part out of the way. Let's get over to the email and get creative. So I've got a template going in the drag and drop editor already and put all my other assets in, but I still need to add the random numbers. If I preview this now, it's just a normal static email. Yawn. I know I want my random numbers to sit between these two fancy lines, so I'm going to create a new row in between the fancy lines with 6 columns. That seems to be the most columns I can have in the drag and drop editor, but it still gives you 1 million number combinations without creating custom code. I can already tell the color of the row doesn't match my ticket, so I'm just going to fix that with my color hex code. Now to see the random number generator liquid working in the email, we need to add the liquid snippet for our random number content block. First, I'm going to add a title content block to my new row by dragging it into any of the email content blocks. Now click Personalization, Content Blocks, and under Attribute, find your block. It will then give you the liquid snippet you need to copy. Paste this snippet where the title is in the email. It will look a bit large and messy, but it won't render like that. Okay, let's test it just to make sure the number generator is working. Click Preview. Oh, look, a number. Perfect. Now we know it's working, let's go back to the editor and copy that block into the 5 other columns. Click on the block, click the copy button and drag it into place. Repeat for the other 4 columns. Now we will preview it again to make sure it's working. Wow, already we have random ticket numbers. How cool is that? Go you! And this will work in any email or anywhere that uses content blocks and Liquid. Now, if you preview this on mobile, you'll notice the numbers are stacked, which we don't want for this message, but that's easily fixed. Go back to the editor, click on the row that contains the random numbers, and change Stack on mobile to Off. I should note it's best to make the random numbers their own row, as it's easy to modify the layout like this. If we preview mobile now, you can see it's all in order. Bingo. Depending on your layout, you may need to remove all the padding from the row itself and each number block so there are no gaps or different colored lines showing between sections. Okay, be sure to smash like and subscribe if you're loving this because it's about to get a whole lot better. You might be wondering how I got the numbers to appear in the Wonka font, even though it's not a standard font inside Braze. Well, what I did was create each of the random numbers in the Wonka font and save them as an image, and then have the random number generator select the correct image rather than print a number. Let me show you how to do that. So here are all the numbers I created and exported from Figma as single image files. Feel free to use any image program you're comfortable with. You could totally do this with MS Paint. Next, I imported these into the Braze media library where it creates a URL for each image. Now, if we go back to our random number generator content block, we can update it. So instead, when case equals 1, instead of printing 1, we paste in the URL for the number 1 Wonka font image, so it selects that image instead. Now the same for 2, 3, 4, and so on, adding our 0 image for the else statement. Now click Done and launch the content block and head back to your email. If I don't update anything in the email at this point and preview it, you will now see it just prints the URL as text, as these are title boxes and it doesn't know that it needs to render an image. So we need to remove these title blocks and replace them with image blocks. Delete the title blocks and under Content, Media, drag an image block into the first column. Click on the block, but instead of selecting an image from the library, turn on the Image with Liquid toggle, so Braze knows this is a dynamic image rather than a static image. Find the random number generator Liquid tag again under Personalization, Content Blocks, Attribute, paste it into the dynamic URL box, and then preview your masterpiece. Bingo, random numbers in whatever font you want. Now, as before, copy that block to the other 5 columns and drag it into place, and preview. Look at that, a whole row of random numbers in whatever font or style you choose using a single content block and a bit of the old noggin. Get as creative as you want here because you don't need to use a font or text. You could use the random number generator to show a series of random images, like a puzzle code challenge. Ooh. That sounds like a good video. You can honestly use this anywhere you need random anything. And remember, you can increase or decrease the modulo number to increase or decrease the number of random options. And finally, just to prove this works for real life, as Bluey would say, I'm going to test send this email to myself a few times and see what we get. Look at that, it's just so cool. And I hope it gets you inspired as well. I'd love it if you drop me a comment below on how you're going to use this, or be sure to come back and let me know once you have. And remember, until next time, it's okay to do things just for fun.